Hello everyone. I'm sharing a story about family betrayal, humiliation, and an unexpected twist of revenge. Get ready to step into a wedding where everything seemed ordinary until the tables turned in the most shocking way. Can you move to the back? Those seats are for real guests. The words weren't whispered. They were said loud enough for the entire table to hear and enjoy. My name is Alara Bennett. I'm 42. Have you ever stood in a room full of family and realized you were only there to be used? I didn't argue. I just picked up my plate, the fork trembling slightly against porcelain, and walked past rows of decorated tables toward the back. Toward the kitchen. Toward the smell of grease and heat instead of roses and perfume. My aunt was already there. She smirked the second she saw me. Not surprised. Not confused. Just satisfied. Good, she said, shoving a stack of plates into my hands. Since you're already here, make yourself useful. I felt the weight of ceramic press into my palms. Warm. Slightly wet. Like they'd already decided what I was worth before I even arrived. Behind me I heard it. My sister's laugh. Fucking familiar. Look at her, she said to someone. She fits better back there anyway. The sink water ran loud, drowning out the music from the wedding hall. Or maybe it was protecting me from hearing more. I stood there, sleeves rolled, hands submerged in soapy water, while my own family celebrated just a few steps away. And in that moment something settled inside me. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a quiet, sinking realization. I had never been invited as family. Only as convenience. The water kept running. It filled the silence I didn't have the strength to break. A steady stream that blurred everything. The music, the laughter, even my own thoughts. Plates clinked softly as I stacked them beside the sink. Grease clung to my fingers no matter how hard I scrubbed, like something refusing to let go. Behind me voices drifted in and out. Did you see what she's wearing? She always tries too hard. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I knew those voices. I'd grown up around them. My cousin passed by the kitchen entrance, dressed in gold and confidence. She paused just long enough to glance at me, her lips curling into a faint, satisfied smile, before walking back into the spotlight. No words. Just a look. That was enough. For a second I thought about leaving. Just drying my hands, walking out, disappearing before anyone noticed. But then I saw it. A small mirror hung crooked on the kitchen wall. Slightly cracked across one corner. I looked at my reflection. For a moment it didn't feel like me staring back. The woman in that mirror looked distant. Like she had already accepted something I was still trying to understand. The chair looked like it was waiting for me. I blinked. The thought didn't make sense, but it lingered anyway. Quiet, strange, almost comforting. Another plate slipped into my hands. Another stain to erase. And then, the kitchen door creaked open behind me. Not rushed. Not loud. Just enough to shift the air. I didn't turn around. But I felt it. Something had changed. The door didn't slam. Just stayed open. I felt it before I saw it. The shift in the room, like the air itself had paused to look at me. I slowly turned, drying my hands on the edge of my dress. He stood there. The groom. Still in his tailored suit, tie slightly loosened, like he had stepped out of a moment that mattered, and into one that confused him. For a second neither of us spoke. From the hall the music carried on. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Life continuing, just not here. His eyes didn't scan the room. They locked on me. Not with curiosity. With recognition. He took a few steps forward, steady, deliberate. The kind of steps that make people notice without trying to. I heard footsteps gathering behind him. My aunt. My sister. A few others, drawn in by nothing but instinct and drama. "What are you doing back here?" my aunt asked quickly, her tone shifting, nervous now. He didn't answer her. He stopped in front of me. Close enough that I could see the slight crease in his brow, like something didn't match what he expected. Then he smiled. Not polite. Not forced. He extended his hand toward me, his voice cutting clean through the room. "Hello, boss." The word echoed louder than the music outside. Behind him silence fell heavy. My sister didn't laugh this time. My aunt didn't speak. And suddenly, every plate I had been holding felt weightless. No one moved. The word boss didn't just land, it stayed there, hanging in the air like something no one knew how to touch. I looked at his hand for a second longer than I should have. Then I took it. His grip was firm, respectful, familiar. "Good to see you, Daniel," I said quietly. Behind him I heard it, a soft inhale almost like the room itself had gasped. My aunt stepped forward, forcing a laugh that sounded too thin to hold anything together. "Oh, you two know each other?" she asked, her voice suddenly careful. He turned slightly, but his attention never left me. "She doesn't just know me," he said calmly. "She built half the company I run." Silence. Not the noisy kind from before. This one was sharp. Cling. Unforgiving. My sister shifted her weight. I could hear the fabric of her dress rustle, small, restless movements that betrayed everything her face tried to hide. That's not funny," she said, but her voice lacked the edge it used to carry. Daniel didn't respond to her. Instead, he glanced at the sink, at my wet hands, at the stack of dishes beside me. His jaw tightened slightly. "Why are you back here?" he asked. It wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Because for the first time that night, the question wasn't for me. No one answered him. Not my aunt. Not my sister. Not even the people lingering near the door pretending they weren't listening. The silence stretched, thin and uncomfortable. I reached for a towel and slowly dried my hands, buying them time they didn't deserve. "It's nothing," I said finally, my voice calm. "They just needed help." My aunt nodded too quickly. "Yes, exactly. Just helping out, you know how family is." Daniel's expression didn't change. "Family," he repeated softly. That single word felt heavier than anything else said that night. From the corner, my sister forced a laugh again. "She always likes doing this stuff," she said, crossing her arms. "Keeps her busy." I glanced at her. For a second we were kids again. Same tone. Same dismissal. Same quiet competition I never agreed to. But this time, something was different. Daniel stepped slightly aside, giving me space, like he wasn't here to speak for me. Just waiting. The mirror on the wall caught my reflection again. Same dress. Same hands. But not the same woman. "I don't like it," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I just stopped correcting people a long time ago." That landed harder than anything else. My aunt's smile faded. My sister looked away first. And in the stillness that followed, I realized something quietly, almost gently. I didn't need to raise my voice to be heard anymore. The room didn't recover after that. It adjusted. Like everyone silently agreed to stand a little differently around me. Daniel stepped back, not leaving, just shifting the space so it belonged to me now. From the hall, someone called his name. Urgent. Nervous. The ceremony's about to restart. But he didn't move. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "I think it's time," he said quietly. My aunt stiffened. "Time for what?" He didn't answer her. He tapped the screen once, then turned it slightly so only I could see. An email. Subject line. Final acquisition approval. My breath paused. I knew that file. I had signed off on it 2 days ago. Late at night, sitting alone in my apartment with nothing but the hum of my laptop and a half-empty cup of cold coffee. Daniel's voice stayed calm. "The company that owns this venue," he said, glancing around the kitchen, "finalized today." My sister frowned. "What does that even mean?" This time I spoke. "It means," I said slowly, "everything here changed ownership this morning." The words didn't sound loud, but they echoed anyway. My aunt's face lost color. "You're joking." I shook my head. "No." I looked around the kitchen. The sink, the plates, the narrow space they had quietly assigned me. Then back at them. "I didn't just help build his company," I added softly. "I own the one that owns this place." Suddenly, the room felt very, very small. The music from the hall swelled, but it no longer filled the room. Instead, their whispers did. Quick, sharp, afraid. My sister's hand trembled on the counter. My aunt clutched her clutch like a shield. Daniel stepped back, giving me the space I hadn't had all night. Quietly, deliberately. I leaned against the counter, letting my wet sleeves drip onto the tile. Cooling, like clarity seeping into my veins. "You all laughed at me," I said softly, voice calm, deliberate. "You treated me like a servant, a joke, invisible." Their eyes flicked to me, to the sink, to the mirror that had watched me transform. "I didn't argue," I continued. "I didn't yell. I didn't even leave." A long pause. Everyone held their breath. Because I was waiting. I pulled my phone from my pocket. A few quick taps later, the lights above the hall flickered. The catering notifications buzzed simultaneously. Orders cancelled. Event coverage paused. Payments reversed, I said, watching as the shock slowly etched itself into their faces. The laughter they had enjoyed earlier, their smug little glances, they vanished, swallowed by stunned silence. My aunt opened her mouth, but no words came. My sister looked like she might cry. Daniel smiled gently, just enough to remind them this was never about him. It was mine. My quiet, unshakable victory. And in that suspended moment I realized, dignity was far more powerful than mockery ever was. The music from the hall swelled, but it sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else's life. I set the last plate on the counter and let my hands rest on the edge. Wet, worn but steady. My aunt's eyes flicked to the corner where Daniel's phone still displayed the confirmation email. Her lips pressed together, tight and colorless. My sister fidgeted, twisting the hem of her dress, eyes darting everywhere but mine. Daniel looked at me once, a quiet acknowledgement passing between us. No words, no unnecessary praise. Just recognition. You did all this? He asked softly, voice low, almost reverent. I nodded. Not for you. Not for anyone here. For me. A silence followed. Thick, uncomfortable, undeniable. The people who had laughed at me pushed me aside, treated me like a shadow. They couldn't look me in the eye. Their smug satisfaction had evaporated. I touched the cracked mirror again. My reflection stared back, composed, untouched by the mockery that had filled the room earlier. For the first time I felt a kind of weightless calm. Daniel smiled faintly. Shall we go? I glanced at the hall, at the glittering tables and the crowd frozen mid-celebration. Then back at him. Yes, I said. And as we walked past them, past the shocked stares and whispered apologies no one dared speak aloud, I realized. The last seat by the kitchen had never been a punishment. It had been a stage. And I was the one who had written the script. We stepped into the hall and for the first time that night I didn't hesitate. The lights shimmered over empty tables. The DJ paused mid-song. The caterers hovered awkwardly, their trays abandoned. Every guest's eyes were on me, but not with admiration. With disbelief, confusion, regret. I walked slowly, deliberately, letting the echoes of my own steps carry the weight of every sneer, every laugh, every whispered insult I had endured. My aunt's face was pale, her smirk gone, replaced by a fragile mask of control she could no longer wear. My sister's lips trembled as she tried to form words. Apologies, excuses, defenses, but none of them found air. I reached the center of the room, raised my chin and allowed the silence to stretch. Not threatening, not cruel, just truthful. Daniel's hand found mine. No flourish, no announcement. Just steady, grounding, reassuring. I didn't come back for revenge, I said softly. I came back to be seen, the way I always should have been. He nodded. Quiet applause trickled from the few guests who understood. The mirror from the kitchen, the cracked witness to all of it, remained in my mind. That small reflection had carried me from humiliation to clarity. From invisibility to presence. As the room adjusted to my dignity, I realized revenge doesn't need fire. Sometimes it's a quiet unveiling, a stillness so powerful it shifts everything. I smiled once lightly. And for the first time that night, I belonged.